Hi, it's Lindsay at Stillwater's Ranch, and today I'm going to do a slightly different video for you guys. I am making my homegrown roasted chicken tonight, and typically I love to make a fresh loaf of bread for dinner with that. This is my favorite, seriously the easiest, no knead bread. I love this recipe for so many reasons. A few of them are that this batch of dough will make 4 kind of regular size loaves and then 2 really large loaves for big crowds. So I love how versatile it is in the size of the loaf you can make. I also love that you don't have to make all 4 or each of those loaves the same day. This dough will stay in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. And as it stays in the fridge, it kind of changes a little bit of flavor. So if you make it right away the first day that you make the dough, which I'm gonna do, it's gonna be a nice, fluffy, white bread. If you leave it in the fridge for the full 2 weeks, it's gonna turn a little sour, and you're gonna have a resemblance of a sourdough, which is delicious. I like it both ways. That's why I love to do it. And yeah, I'll make a few loaves a week, and it will kind of be different bread each time I make it, which is so fun. The other reason that I love this bread is it's super versatile. I'm gonna show you guys 3 different mix-ins, 3 of my favorite mix-ins that I do in this bread, and then also give you guys examples of multiple mix-ins that I do. My cows are swimming in the pond out my other window, and so it's so fun to watch. I just love living here and seeing this view every day. But yeah, they just got in the pond to cool off. How fun. So anyway, as I was saying, I'm gonna also tell you guys all these different mix-ins that I do to make this bread a sweet bread in the morning, and also as a more savory bread in the afternoon, or a fun bread to do toasts on or put on an appetizer board or a cheese board. Yeah, it's super versatile. I've also done pizza crust with this dough, fresh. I've spread it out. I've done deep dish. I've done a thinner crust. We've cooked pizzas on the grill with this bread, and so it's a super versatile dough. You can make baguette, you can make a loaf, you can make a sandwich bread, so many different things. So with that said, let me start showing you the recipe. So first we're gonna start with our flour. This is just regular all-purpose flour, nothing special here. Seriously, anyone can do this. My 24-year-old brother has asked for this recipe and he has made this bread, so you can do it too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 6.5 cups of flour. Here's 1, if I don't count, I'll lose track. 2, 3, I'm not weighing, I'm not packing the flour, I'm loosely brushing it with my finger. 4, 5, 6, and a half. I make a mess, that's what I do. Okay, from there, oh, I didn't get my tablespoon out. Get that. From there, we are gonna do 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. This is active dry yeast. I use this all the time. I always have a jar in my fridge, and then, because once it's opened, you need it in your fridge, and then I have an extra spare jar in my pantry at all times. So we're gonna do 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. Again, you can't mess it up. I do not measure that particularly, my kind of recipe. And then I also do kind of a heaping tablespoon of kosher salt. Do not use table salt. It would be way too salty. Use kosher salt, or even a sea salt, but use a big flake salt. And then you wanna just slightly mix those ingredients in. And you want to pour 3 cups of warm water. I measure out 3 cups of water, put it in the microwave for about 45 seconds a minute, Warm it up a little bit. You do not want this scalding hot. You just want it warm to activate your yeast. So I'll pour in half there, and I'll do a little mix. Guys, stirring this is the hardest part. I'll make this in a big wooden bowl, a big glass bowl. I don't always use metal bowls to mix this because I think it reacts to the yeast a little bit. This plastic bucket is the best. I get this off Amazon. And then I just keep this tub in my fridge again as I use it kind of throughout those 2 weeks that it stays good in. It rises in this, I pull it in this, and I store it in this. So if you want to try the spread, or you try it the first time in a wooden bowl or a glass bowl, and you decide, oh, I loved making that, because I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. Then I would recommend buying one of these. I also use a wooden spoon, one with slats, or this one is just regular wooden spoon. I do have kind of a dough hook with some things like that I like stirring it with too, but I'm trying to show you guys with some just household ingredients. This is easy. So I'm just getting all this loose flour in the bottom here incorporated. There's no time limit on how long you need to do this. Just when you get all your loose flour incorporated, that is it. So that's done. This is kind of a sticky batter when you get it, but not super wet, but it is sticky. It'll stick to your hands. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this all in here off the spoon, and then we are gonna let this rise for 2 hours at least on the counter, room temperature. That's it. We're gonna put our lid on. If you're using a bowl, just kind of stick a dish towel, clean dish towel over it. And then what I do is I just kind of crack my lid just a little bit to kind of let out the gases as it rises. So this will rise on the counter today for 2 hours. It can rise longer than that, honestly. It can sit on your counter for hours and hours. So sometimes if I'm gonna do a cinnamon raisin bread in the morning, I will make this that night before. I'll put it on my counter all night, and then I'll follow these instructions that I'm gonna show you guys next. So this can sit for a while, but it needs to sit out at least 2 hours to let it rise. When we come back, I will show you how to bake it after it's risen. And for baking, you're either gonna use a cast iron pan or my personal favorite, my Dutch oven. So I will show you guys that right after it rises. Okay, you guys, our dough has risen for just right at 2 hours, and this is how she looks. So she's got lots of air bubbles, she's come up a little bit, it's looking good. And we are ready for our next step, which is gonna be shaping it. And if you wanna do any mix-ins, this is where we're gonna do it. I'm gonna make a pretty basic white loaf first, and bake that, show you guys. And then if you're interested in the mix-ins, stay with me and I will show you 3 mix-ins and how those come out cooked. So let's go with just our plain white loaf right now. So this is parchment paper. I just got a square of parchment paper to lay down here. And I'm gonna get some flour on the parchment paper and on my hands. I am gonna take a pretty good sized chunk. Again, I'm gonna make 4 loaves. So I'm gonna grab about 1/4 of this dough. If you want to make, 2 big loaves, then grab half of the dough. I've never done 1 loaf with all this dough. That seems like a lot. And this is kind of messy, but you're just gonna kind of shape it into a ball. I maybe didn't get enough flour on my hands, but that's okay. Shape it into a ball, and that's what it looks like. Let me wash my hands. Okay, For this white loaf, I'm actually gonna do just a little bit of the everything but the bagel seasoning on top. You can just leave it regular. You can put some sesame seeds on top. You can put some Italian herb blend dry on top. I do a lot of fresh herbs too with my bread, but I do those mixed in because they're gonna burn on top. So you wanna do a dried herb on top, or this everything but the bagel seasoning, or leave it plain. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna now let this rise about 45 minutes. This is an interesting step. So we're gonna let this kind of rise at 45 minutes. The same time, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my oven. I'm gonna turn on my oven to 450 because what I wanna do is it takes about 15 minutes maybe for my oven to get that hot. But then I also want to put my cooking pan that I'm gonna use in the oven and let that warm up for about 20 to 30 minutes. And so what I do typically is as soon as I form my loaf, I go ahead and turn on the oven and put this in the oven. And so then when 45 minutes is done, I know my oven's preheated. I know this has been in there getting hot for about 30 minutes and I'm ready to go. I'm gonna cook in a Dutch oven today. If you decide to cook in a cast iron pan, that's great. I do it all the time. What you wanna do is you wanna go ahead and heat your cast iron pan up as well. And then you need some kind of little tin to put about a cup and a half of water in, so that you make sure you get a good chewy crust and not so crunchy that you're gonna break a tooth on it. If you're using the Dutch oven, all you have to do is put your bread in here, the lid on, and the last 5 minutes of cooking, we're gonna take the lid off. And if you're using a cast iron, after these 45 minutes, you're gonna put the bread in the cast iron, a tin with a little bit of water in it, about a cup and a half. Cook it like normal and let the water evaporate and your bread will be perfect. Let's let this rise for about 45 minutes. I'm gonna turn on my oven. I'm gonna put my Dutch oven in the oven and then I will give you the baking instructions. Okay, our bread has risen for about 45 minutes. And it didn't quite double in size, but maybe a size and a half is what we're looking for. You can let it rise a little bit longer than 45 minutes if you're running around or you don't get right to it at 45 minutes. It's gonna be okay. Again, this is like a no-fail recipe. And again, while our bread has been rising, our oven has been preheating with our Dutch oven or our cast iron in the oven getting warm. So I'm gonna take my Dutch oven out, we're gonna stick this bread in it, and we're gonna bake. Okay, here's my Dutch oven, nice and hot. You can see that steam. I'm gonna stick this in here, parchment and all. So it's like that. We're gonna stick the lid back on our Dutch oven. And then for a smaller loaf, we're gonna cook this for 25 minutes total. And take the lid off for the last 5 minutes. So 20 minutes with the lid on, 5 minutes in, I'm gonna take the lid off and let it finish to get that nice crust on it. If you're using your cast iron, then you are just gonna do your cast iron with the tin, with a cup and a half of water, and you're gonna set your timer for 25 minutes. If I make a larger loaf, like I just split my dough in half, I'm gonna add just a little bit more time. So I'm gonna do 25 minutes lid on and 5 minutes lid off for a total of 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and stick this in the oven and I'll show you once it's done. Okay, you guys, I told y'all I would show you guys my favorite mix-ins. So here are some of my absolute favorites. The first one is we're gonna do a savory bread. This is a jalapeno and cheddar bread. So what we're gonna do is get our flour, just like normal, pinch off, we already took a fourth, so now we're gonna take a third of our bread. And then we want to fold it out. Peel it out like this and just kind of create a pocket to put some of your fillings in. I have fresh shredded cheddar here. And then I have fresh sliced jalapenos that are actually from our garden. And we're just gonna fold this in. I'm just gonna fold it in, and I'm gonna try to make another little pocket here. What you wanna try to prevent is by kneading it too much where your fillings poke out, because they're gonna get burnt if you have too much of your fillings poked out. What I do with my mix-ins to make it look pretty is the last 5 minutes of cooking, when I take that lid off of my Dutch oven, I will put some whole jalapeno slices and some more of the grated cheddar on top of my bread to give it that final look, that final finishing touch. So here, I'm gonna try to get a little bit more of this stuff in here without letting it poke out too much on the front. Again, it'll kind of rise and all fill in there. But yeah, what I want to do is just kind of knead it in there and pinch some of this stuff in there, a little bit on the bottom, and that is pretty good. So I'm going to let that rise for 45 minutes, and we're gonna bake this the same way that we did our white bread. My other two favorite mix-ins are some savory or sweet mix-ins. This can be a tasty afternoon snack or some fresh bread in the morning. My first mix-in of the sweet that I love is cinnamon raisin bread. What I did here is I took about 1/4 cup of raisins, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and about a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon. I don't measure that well. I just pour in. Again, you cannot mess it up, and play with it. If you want more raisins, more sugar, more cinnamon, you know, have fun with it. So we're gonna do that same process. I'm gonna take my cinnamon sugar mixture and try to get quite a bit of raisins in there. And I'm gonna fold like that. I'm gonna try to get a little bit more. There's not very much on this side. I'm gonna fold. It's not as crucial that you don't have any of the sugar mixing up, that's showing up on the outside of your bread. That's just gonna caramelize and make kind of a caramel texture. Pretty delicious on the outside of your bread, but your raisins will kind of burn if they're sticking up out of the bread when you bake it. And so I try to not let the mix-ins show too much. And I do the same thing with this one as I did with the jalapeno cheddar, is that the last 5 minutes of cooking, when I take that lid off, or in my cast iron, I just put a few raisins and sprinkle some of the cinnamon sugar mixture on top to kind of make it look pretty. Let me get a few of these raisins kind of in here. Pinch them in here, and this will be good. And we will set that aside. You can kind of tuck some in on your corner, put some sugar in, and we'll let that dough rise. The last sweet dough that I love is chocolate chips. I do several other mix-ins, but these are kind of my very favorite, my go-tos. And so what I do is I just take some chocolate chips, and get a little flour on my hands. I'm just mixing that in this bowl. Sometimes that's easier when it's the last of my dough. And just take some chocolate chips and mix it in as well. I've done this with some toasted almonds or some honey roasted almonds, or other nuts. All of that is great to do. This is so good. My family raves about this chocolate chip bread, especially the one with nuts in it. And yeah, you guys can get creative with this. Some other mix-ins that I love and you can try are going to be white chocolate and lemon zest. And then I love a blueberry and lemon bread. So you can do fresh blueberries and lemon zest. That's pretty good for that one. Hopefully this one rises up. I didn't measure my dough perfectly, so that's just a little baby loaf. For savory, I also love pesto and fresh mozzarella or Parmesan. Another go-to of mine is to roast a whole head of garlic in the oven and then do garlic and fresh rosemary bread. There's so many mix-ins you can do. I've got a list to try, like strawberry and cream cheese, and some more savory ones, sun-dried tomato and herbs are on my list to try. And so get creative, have fun, yeah, and make some delicious treats for your friends and family. Okay, our loaves just finished cooking, and look at these. This is that white bread with the everything but the bagel seasoning. This is that cheddar jalapeno that I cut into. Look at that center. That looks phenomenal. The chocolate chip, I cut into that as well to show you guys. So good. And then our cinnamon raisin. Again, these are so versatile, so fun to play with. You can do so many different mix-ins, make so many different shapes of loaves, from a baguette to pizza crust to smaller loaves like this are a big loaf to feed a lot of people. I can't wait to hear about the mix-ins that you try and you do, and try some of mine. Okay, I'll see you guys next time.